Today's trip's going to take us from Bridgeport, Connecticut to Port Jefferson on Long Island in New York. It's bitterly cold, there's snow everywhere, so it's not exactly a tropical cruise. That's not white sand you see, that's snow. The journey takes us across Long Island Sound and cuts off a couple of hours traffic if you need to get from Connecticut to Long Island. The ferry's been in operation for over 100 years, and I think when you see it, you probably think it's the original ferry. It is a convenient crossing though. There is one other ferry across Long Island which goes from New London, Connecticut across to Orient Point, but this one is much closer to New York City. You can check out my other trip report on YouTube as well. Bridgeport's a fairly gritty city, a lot of industrial areas. There is convenient transport though. The train station stops right by the port and you can just walk from the train quickly over to the ferry. I wouldn't recommend this ferry for passengers who are mobility challenged. There doesn't seem to be any sort of accommodation either at the train station or for boarding the ferry. Here it is, the P.T. Barnum, which is just one of the ferries that goes between Port Jefferson and Bridgeport. This one has 2 decks for cars and an inside deck and an outside deck. Given the temperatures about -5 Celsius, I think the top deck will be closed. The capacity of this ferry is about 120 cars and 1,000 people if all the decks were open. Here at Bridgeport, the cars disembark through the stern, whereas when we're at Port Jefferson, they disembark through the bow. So after doing a big U-turn, all the cars disembark and then it's our turn to get on board. Boarding is pretty efficient. All the cars lined up in multiple lanes. A couple of people have priority boarding, but then we just all roll on. These guys outside look pretty cold. It's nice and warm in the car. There are 2 decks for cars. You can see coming up there's a upper and lower ramp. It's a bit hard to tell, but it doesn't seem like there's any accommodation made for disabled passengers, and foot passengers seem to have to walk up the car ramp, which is not ideal. We're in a pretty large SUV, but if it's okay, we're just directed into our position. For the crossing, we have the option of staying in our car or going upstairs. We can't wander around the car deck for security reasons, but we can either stay downstairs or go upstairs. It's winter, and so there's not many cars. The upper car deck is completely empty. It is a couple of flights up the stairs to get up to the passenger deck. So it's not Norwegian Cruise Lines, it's a local ferry, but it's pretty old school. There's a cafe. I wouldn't say a gourmet cafe, but it's a cafe and it serves food. The seats are in pretty bad repair. Many of them are torn and they're clean enough, but pretty basic seating. This seems to be some sort of Connecticut COVID measure, which is just sheets of plastic with hand drawing on it, and the aircon units look like they were fitted afterwards. enough of the interior, let's have a look outside. So here we are leaving Bridgeport. As I said before, it's about -5 Celsius, 22 degrees Fahrenheit. Snow everywhere, but beautiful blue skies and no wind. In summer this marina will be absolutely full of boats, but in the middle of winter, not so much. Looks like we have some original fire equipment, maybe from the 1800s. This is the power plant we saw in the opening sequence from the other side, and the beach that we were at. All very beautiful with the blue sky. There is a bar on board, which is at the bow, and quite good views from here of the crossing. The crossing takes about an hour, so we could slip in a pint or two and listen to some music on a jukebox. The ferry crossing just takes an hour or so, and to get from Connecticut to Long Island. Lots of scenery, and of course it's nice to be outside. Incidentally, because the public transport connections are good at either end, this is a popular route for those without a car. You don't need a car to make the crossing. You can use public transport to get to either end. Bridgeport is better connected than Port Jefferson, but even at Port Jefferson, it's not that far to get to a local train station or bus station. Alright, we're coming into Port Jefferson. There's a breakwater here, and the port is quite sheltered. So time to go downstairs and get into our car. I guess because we're only about a third full, this embarkation takes hardly any time at all. And there you have it, the crossing of Long Island Sound from Bridgeport to Port Jefferson. Please remember to subscribe to my channel and hit like if you appreciate my content. It really helps me out. Thanks.